420. All right.
Wow.
Minhag Yerushalayim, the custom of Jerusalem. Atef b'tzitzit, to wrap one in itself in tzitzit, meaning a talit. Ulhaniach tefillin, and to wear tefillin. 3 lines from the top. Bevet HaKnesset, in the synagogue, betfilat shacharit, during shacharit. B'tisha b'av, on Tisha b'av. Explain what I just said. There are places where people do not wear tefillin in the morning of Tisha b'av.
Right.
Yes, the custom of the Sfaradim in Yerushalayim is yes to wear tefillin on Tisha b'av in the morning. In the Kol Makom, in any case, Yesh Nohagim, some of the custom, L'Tadef b'tzitzit, to wrap a talit, U'lanech tefillin, and to wear tefillin, B'vet HaKnesset, in the synagogue, B'tisha b'av, B'tfilat HaMincha. Only during Mincha. U'mitpalim shachrit b'lo tzitzit tefillin, and they pray shachrit without tzitzit and tefillin. V'hanohagim ken yesh lahem al mashi yismochu, and those who have that custom have on whom to rely. It is my understanding that the Ashkenazi community almost unanimously does not wear tefillin by shacharit of Tisha b'av. Alright?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And the Sephardic community, many communities outside of Yerushalayim did wear tefillin. Only
Shabbat?
b'during Mincha. No, on
Morning of
Tisha b'av.
Oh, Tisha B'av. I
Tisha
thought you
B'av.
said.
And the custom of the Sephardim in Yerushalayim, which is often the more authoritative one, is to wear tefillin at Shacharit, not at Mincha. The Moroccan rabbis were very into only wearing it at Mincha, but this is a Italian custom. And both customs have on what to rely.
Can I ask a little bit more broad question on that?
Sure.
Were the Moroccans more influenced by European Jewry than other Sephardim? Because it seems like different communities, there were a lot of similarities to some Ashkenazic practices and views compared to other of the Sephardim.
It's a complicated question.
Like things like rice on Pesach and some of the minhagim that came down.
It's a complicated question with a
Because there's a lot
complicated
of-
answer.
There are a lot of different Moroccan groups, like
Correct.
Marrakesh is very different than Tangier from Casablanca. I understand that there's many different views, but it's a general question. Would be interesting to know.
All right, let's talk history. The Moroccan Jewish community has some customs that one might say seem a little more Ashkenazi. Like Zev mentioned, when I'm not eating rice on Pesach. There are times when the Sephardic community in Morocco followed the Ramah, as opposed to Maran. There have been a number of answers given. Those Sephardic Jews who happen to not like the Moroccans like to make fun of the Moroccans and say it's because Chabad came to Morocco and they messed with the Moroccan customs. And that's how that happened. So come back to the original customs.
But the Rebbe told the Shliach to Casablanca, do not change the customs of the Moroccans.
Yeah,
That was his directive, so to speak.
I have yet to meet such a shliach.
I understand it. Probably with their own inability to.
There was a very active Chabad presence in Morocco, which the Moroccan Jewry very much welcomed. My mother, his family, they studied at a Chabad school in Morocco back in the
They
day.
had schools.
Yeah, sure. Rabbi Shalom Massas was the chief rabbi of Morocco, heard that at these schools they were teaching Tanya. He used to come to Fabrengens and Rabbi Massas felt it was very much okay that the Hasidim came to Morocco to help out. He was happy with it. And they summoned this rabbi into his office and he said, listen, I'm the chief rabbi of Morocco. I welcome your presence here. I've helped you with mikvaot and I've helped you with kashrut and you've helped us with the things that you've brought from New York. And I said, but the custom in Morocco is that we do not teach people Kabbalah in masses. That is something that is taught privately. If you wish to continue doing so, then I will arrange for you to be on your first flight out of Morocco tomorrow.
Oh.
And right away, that changed. No more. The custom stopped being meddled with, but that took an active rebuke on the part of the Moroccan rabbinate. This happens to not be true. The reason this claim is not true is because these things were done by Moroccan Jews way before Chabad even got there. It's not Chabad's fault. Chabad did not mess up Moroccan Jewry. Anybody who would like to say that is just not true. It's not an accurate portrayal of history. What is more accurate is the following. Rabbi Yosef Karo has a very simple rule, how he rules halachot. There are three pillars of halakha. They are the Rambam, the Rif, and the Rosh. Who is Sephardic from that list? The Rambam. And the Rif, he's from Rabbi Yitzchak Al-Fasi. Where is he from?
Iraq.
From Fez. Al-Fasi, from the city of
Oh.
Fez.
Yes.
And the Rosh, Rabbeinu Asher, who was from Germany. Rabbeinu Asher left his position in Germany and became a rabbi in Spain. His son, the Tur, was then the first Ashkenazi rabbi who lived in a Sephardic country, probably as a, not the first, but from the famous ones. Rabbi Yosef Karo's rule was if two of those three pillars agree, that's the halakha. If two out of three agree and one disagrees, the halakha goes to the majority. And if all three disagree, then that's already where does he go? Many times like the Rambam, many times the way he feels is most logical, that's already a gray area. The Jews of Morocco, not all, but many, were exiles of
Spain.
Spain. In which case, their rabbi was the Rosh, who is not Sephardic in his origin.
That's interesting.
But this is not a 20 years ago development, this is a 1,000 years ago development. One of their most influential teachers was the Rosh, who was a German rabbi who, when he had to flee from Germany, was accepted by the Sephardic community. He very much appreciated the way the Sephardic community respected rabbis. He struggled with some of the Sephardic customs that German Jews would have never done, and he changed them. But so, there are opinions in Morocco that say that at times where Rabbi Yosef Karo ruled against the Rosh, Moroccan Jewry felt more inclined to go with the Rosh, who was their rabbi, even though he was Ashkenazi. And that's where some of these customs came from.
Interesting.
I happen to think, though, that that's not entirely accurate. It might be true for some things, but not entirely accurate. We would have found in Moroccan literature them openly talking about we stick up for the Rosh and he's our rabbi and then Rabbi Yosef Karo fights him. You don't find that sentiment floating around so much. What you do find is as follows. The Moroccan Jewish community, like its counterpart, the Ashkenazi Jewish community, are most famous in the last 500 years in one area, and that is the refusal to allow Kabbalistic texts and teachings to influence the way they have observed halakha for thousands of years. The Sephardic community, the traditional in Iran and Iraq and wherever else, Egypt and Syria, were not as immune to the Kabbalistic influence. And whereas Hasidim and Sephardic Jews often look very similar because they changed from what was old and became more Kabbalistically inclined, my theory is that Moroccan Jews and Ashkenazi Jews both followed a very similar code of how to rule halachot that did not include Kabbalistic influences into it. The effect of Kabbalah and halakha has been disastrous at best. It's a problem. It's a problem. Now you know me. I'm not against Kabbalah. But halakha is halakha, and Kabbalah is Kabbalah, and I'm sorry that that's the way the world works. Till this day, Ashkenazi poskim have the integrity to separate the two. Sephardic poskim, it's very hard to find a separation between Kabbalah and halakha. And I believe that's why you'll find that in the Moroccan community, the Ashkenazi community, it's not so much they do things the same, but the influences that would have veered them off course, were not so popular or obvious to them. But they didn't let that happen. That was the bottom line.
There was a latter-day influence on Yemen from Jews, Yemenite Jews from Satmar, which is interesting.
Right. That's much more recent. That's after the founding of the state of Israel. But in Yemen, you had this problem as well. My family is from a group of Yemenite Jews that accepted Kabbalah in Yemen. There were rabbis in Yemen that refused to accept Kabbalah, and therefore my customs are much more similar to those of the Sephardic Jews who accepted Kabbalah than they are to other Yemenite Jews who live down the street.
Very Rambam.
The other Yemenite Jews who didn't accept Kabbalah are very Rambam. But that means that they would also have much more in common with the original Ashkenazi circles and the original Moroccan circles. And you have to know that in general, the North African Jews and the Spanish, Portuguese Jews, and they very much despise the fact that the Jews of the Orient who took on Kabbalah are referred to as Sephardic Jews. They're not Sephardic Jews. They were not in Spain. I mean, if the Spanish Jews were in Spain and Portugal and Morocco and Algeria, then the ones in Iraq and Iran and Syria are not Sephardic. Those are called Mizrahim. They're Jews of the Orient, but they all got lumped together. Kind of like today.
And the Yemenites definitely.
Kind of like today, you could call a Polish Jew Ashkenazi, but Ashkenazi really means German Jew. Or even better, you can call Hasidic people Ashkenazi, but they're not really Ashkenazi. They're Hasidic. I mean, their customs are entirely different from the traditional Ashkenazi community.
So even though you don't like the influence sometimes of Kabbalah on Halacha, your tradition is your minhag is basically based on a lot of Kabbalistic things.
Well, I don't follow everything. But I have a rabbi, so my rabbi is different in this regard. But yeah, the way that the siddur that my family uses is very similar to the Sephardic siddur, as opposed to the Rambam siddur, which the Yemenites use. And certain customs, certain halachot, they have the influence of the Arizal on them, the Zohar on them, which other Yemenites wouldn't have. I don't personally subscribe to all of the minhagim that are handed down, but that's
I got to study with a Yemenite rabbi years ago in Los Angeles. And basically, what he taught was Mishnah Torah. It was like Rambam.
Right.
Very strong.
right.
He didn't touch Kabbalah
There's this war between Kabbalah and not Kabbalah is older than me, and there's no one who's going to solve that problem aside from Mashiach. But the bottom line is, if Kabbalah gives to Jewish philosophy what's necessary for a Jew to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, fine. But when that philosophy now begins to change principles that we've held dear for thousands of years, that's when you question how much influence do you give it? How much leverage does it have? How much can it change? That's the question we ask. They don't mind. What do you care? You read a paragraph from the Zohar. The question is now when it starts to change things. In general, when I wrote my book, I got a phone call from one of my relatives who's Hasidic. How dare you tell people that they can change their customs? So my answer to him was, you're Hasidic, no? Yes. How old is your movement? 300 years old. I said, 300 years ago, you guys were regular, run-of-the-mill Ashkenazi Jews, right? Yes. You changed your custom, right? Yes. You changed your siddur, right? Yes. You changed your accent, right? Yes. You changed the way you guys observe halakha, right? Yes. So why can't I tell you to change things? Meaning, you are the proof that you can change things. Your movement is not a traditional Jewish movement. If you look at Ashkenazi Jewry, it's an old, old tradition. It's an old discipline. What you see in Hasidic Judaism is very, I'm not, God forbid, saying something bad about it, but it is not old. It is very recent to the Jewish scene. And therefore, I struggle with this, when you're a German Jew from I don't know, Washington Heights, and the German Jewish community might be portrayed as less traditional than your Hasidic Jew from Borough Park. It's not accurate, that story. That's the truth. That's what I'm trying to say. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef refused even to call the Hasidic Siddur. He refused to call it by its name. He said there's two Nuschot, Nusach Ashkenaz and Sephardic. Nusach Ashkenaz and Sephardic, and the Hasidic one is called Nusach Ashkenaz HaMeshubash. It's the messed up one. It's the one that got messed up along the way. It's the bottom line is, Rav Herzog was once asked, how could the Baal Shem Tov and the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, how could they make their own Siddurim? Who gave them the right? And so the truth is, we don't have a good answer to this question. How do you throw out thousands of years of tradition? But one thing we can tell you is that if people like the Baal Shem Tov and the first Lubavitcher Rebbe felt that it was important, those are the people who have the license to change things. They were big enough people. They had broad enough shoulders to do things like that. And we don't ask questions. We don't have to do it. But you know, we respect them the way they are. Alright, so my last point is, Sfaradim have a blessing, and that is to follow the Shulchan Aruch. It's a good thing. It's kept people around the same page. If I go to a Syrian community, an Egyptian community, an Iraqi community, they might sing tunes a little bit different. The Siddur might have a few extra pages or missing some pages, but the halachot are almost all going to be the same. Because we all follow Rabbi Yosef Karo. This is not true for the Ashkenazi world. It never decided Halakha ends here, or Halakha starts here. Every community and their rabbi and their traditions and their teachers and their that's some would say that preserves the fluidity of Halakha, where the Sephardic world doesn't have. Fine, I'm not going to take that away. Sephardic Halakha is not as flexible as Ashkenazi Halakha. That's true. But there's one thing, and that is, you can have two people who read the same text of Rabbi Yosef Karo and come to two very different conclusions. It's up to interpretation. And that's why you'll find in Iraq, the Jews say, the Sephardic people do this, and the Moroccans, oh, the Sephardic people do this. It's two different ways to read the Shulchan Aruch. It happens. It's not the end of the world. So is it that one is more Ashkenazi or more Sephardic? I don't know. If in Europe they happen to read the Shulchan Aruch the same way the Jews in Morocco did, that just means that two people found the truth in the same place without speaking to each other. That's okay. That's normal. That happens.
It's not a necessary issue of culture. That is.
Exactly. Right.
So you said that the Sephardim are more consistent in their halacha because they always base on Shulchan Aruch.
Correct.
But then before you said that the Ashkenazim have a very old tradition of halacha which is not too immutable. So I don't understand how that.
They sound contradictory.
Yeah.
I'll try to give an example. There are certain things that an Ashkenazi posek could let his congregant do that I wouldn't be able to sign off on. He's correct. He's quoting a 1,000-year-old opinion. But in the Sephardic world, that opinion existed, and 500 years ago, with the appearance of the Shulchan Aruch, we decided not to use that opinion anymore. And so, out of a loyalty to the rulings of the Shulchan Aruch, I can no longer go and undermine the Shulchan Aruch, even if there's an opinion that's valid. Whereas the Ashkenazi rabbi might have that leeway.
Yeah, but still, Shulchan Aruch is the basis of Ashkenazic halacha.
But it's not binding. In the sense that even though maybe what is observed, but it's not considered, no one's going to stone somebody for veering from it.
Stoning is not.
What I mean to say is a Sephardic rabbi couldn't publish a psak halacha that directly contradicts that which is written in the Shulchan Aruch.
Yeah.
An Ashkenazi rabbi can if he's relying on another opinion.
You said yourself that a lot of Sephardic customs break halacha according to Shulchan Aruch.
That's correct.
And that people justify it that way.
Correct. Those take a lot of justification.
Yeah.
It's true. It doesn't. It's not a red line that's never been crossed. It's been crossed.
Weren't there like about 280 rabbis that all agreed on what's written in the Shulchan Aruch?
200, yes.
200. So that's a pretty big majority of Jewish people, Jewish rabbis.
There's been no other book like that. At which point, I would have wished that the Ashkenazi world would have jumped on board and then we'd have one halakha, or almost one. But they didn't. That's the way Hashem chose history to be. So that's the way it is. I'm not upset about it. It's the way it is. This is just the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu played things out.
And you said the Rambam, the Rif, and the Rosh, and those were the three who were deciding the pillars of the Shulchan Aruch.
Right. You know, the Ramah, one of his big grudges with Maran is that he doesn't agree that those are the three pillars.
Mm.
He says to Maran, it's all due respect to Maran, but you chose two Sephardic ones. And the third one is like half Sephardic. You know, he's a German rabbi, but he lived in Spain. So what? He felt that there were other opinions that should have been taken into consideration. He's not necessarily wrong. And I think it's important to note that the Moroccan Jewish community is the largest Jewish community of Sephardic Jews was outside of the land of Israel. Whereas in Iraq, there were 50,000 Jews. In Morocco, there were over 500,000 Jews.
800.
It's not even a comparison as to who was. And the interesting thing is, if you look at the chief rabbis of Israel, since the founding of the State of Israel, all have been Iraqi, except for one.
Sorry.
Rav Ovadia Yosef was from Iraq. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu was of Iraqi background. You have Rav Amar, who was Moroccan, but even he was a Moroccan who was a student of Rav Ovadia Yosef, so figure how that one works out. It's the largest Sephardic Jewish community that seems to be the least represented. But if one would like to make a case of what did the majority of the Sephardic world hold like, probably the North African Jewish community. And if you want to include already Algeria and Tunisia, those are borders that change every other weekend. So it wasn't necessarily true that Moroccan Jews and Algerian Jews viewed themselves as separate people. They were kind of like,
Or-
North American Jews might include America and Canada, U.S. and Canada. We would all consider ourselves North American. There are some things that we'd all be in the same boat about, the same culture norms, same. In that regard, I think that when you want to look at what's an authentic Sephardic practice, it might be nice that many great names you've heard of come from Iraq, but it's not the majority population of the Sephardic Jewish community. This is all for fun.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is that either way you go, either according to the minhag of Yerushalayim, which is to wear tefillin and shacharit of Tisha B'Av, or the minhag of other people, which is to wear tefillin by mincha, both have on whom to rely. V'roi, and it's proper for somebody who follows the custom of the Jews in Yerushalayim. Shebemakom shenagu ken, that a person who's in a place, a synagogue, where they don't wear tefillin in the morning of Tisha B'Av. Yishtadel kol echad, everybody should try, litatef b'tzitzit l'nech tefillin, to wrap a talit and wear tefillin beveito kodem tefillat shacharit, before they go pray at the synagogue. So
They should wrap tefillin and
at home,
put on talit
At home.
before going.
before they go to shul, v'kabem kriyat shema, and you should bless kriyat shema. You should say kriyat shema. Achar sheber b'kol Torah, after you say the blessing of the Torah. V'achar kach yifshot hatalit v'yechlot tefillin, and then you take off your talit and tefillin. V'yelech levet hakneset, and you go to the synagogue להתפלל shacharit, to pray shacharit without a talit and tefillin.
So what is the reason that you don't put?
This is the $1 million question, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I would think that the reason would be undercut by what you do before you go to shul. If you have put on tefillin and talit. I
Can
mean,
you bring me a book, please?
Like it's, but then you have like
Huh?
public
Could you bring me
signs
a
of
book
mourning,
from the shop, please?
because it's like a mourning of the community.
There's these tall brown books, the Mishnah Berurah.
Whereas personally,
I need the last volume, the one that says Vav on the
Maybe.
spine.
maybe
but
an obligation still to put tefillin on and talit, but publicly as a sign of
Thank you
mourning
very
you
much.
don't.
Could be, but I would
That's
think
how I
you'd
would
be.
personally rationalize
Yeah.
it, whatever that's worth.
Could be.
Because then also the whole issue of minhag versus halacha and what's binding on Tisha B'Av and what isn't. And
Just that I would think that the individual mourning would be at least as serious as the communal mourning. And if you're putting on talit and tefillin in the morning at home,
well, there must be a different status to private mourning and communal mourning
yeah.
in that case.
Well, one thing, it's in the morning.
I have to give you like a spelling lesson.
Yeah, I guess.
Alright, Shulchan
Doesn't
Aruch.
have a U.
The Shulchan Aruch in chapter 555 in Orach Chaim says Nohagim. The custom is when Maran says Nohagim, it doesn't mean that's what he did. It just means that's what people do. The custom is Shelo lahaniach tefillin, not to wear tefillin b'Tisha B'Av, on Tisha B'Av shacharit in the morning. Velo talit, and not a talit either. Ela lovshim talit katan tachat b'gadim below bracha. You wear your tzitzit under your clothes without a bracha. ובמנחה, and by מנחה, מניחים ציצית ותפילין ומברכים עליהם. You wear tzitzit and tefillin and you make a blessing on them. This seems to be the custom that most people do today. Right? That's what says Shulchan Aruch. What is the source for this? What is the origin? The Mishnah Berurah brings the following. Al Pi HaMidrash, there's a Midrash. The Midrash says about Hashem. Bitza emrato, hishlich mishamayim eretz tiferet Yisrael. He got rid of he ripped off his emrato, whatever that means, and he threw down from heaven the glory of Israel. Says the Midrash, what does the first part of the verse mean? Biza purfira dilei. He took off his talit. And what does the second part of the verse mean? He threw down from heaven the glory of Israel. Zot tefillin. This is his tefillin. Which means to say that according to the Midrash, Hashem, whatever metaphorical talit and tefillin he wears, he took them off on Tisha B'Av out of pain of the temple being destroyed. This is the origin of the custom that, oh, he took it off, so we should also take it off. That's where the custom comes from.
From a midrash.
for a midrash.
Wow.
It's not a halacha. It's a custom based on a midrash.
Oh,
Interesting. Very.
so what do we do with it? What do we follow it?
It's so universally followed that you would think it would be more integrated into the halakha.
Let's read you here. The Be'er Hetev. He writes, Maharam Galanti. Rabbi Galanti, Hayam Menicham Beveito. He would wear tefillin in his home. Vaya Koreh Kriyat Shema. And he would read Shema. V'achar kach hayolech lebet HaKnesset. Then he would take them off and go to shul. And he writes, Sheken matzah katuv laHarizal. And he said, that's what the Harizal said to do. The Harizal said, they have to understand here what's happening. The custom is like the midrash. If Hashem took off his tefillin, so should we. So we'll wear them by mincha. Are you allowed to wear your tefillin at mincha? How long do you have to wear your tefillin?
Just enough to say Shema.
But how long? Well, until what time of the day?
Where
Oh,
it's-
until-
Until sunset, right?
Yeah.
Until sunset. So by mincha, it's before sunset. That's okay. So you wouldn't lose out on a day of wearing tefillin. You just delay. You delay wearing tefillin. In general, tefillin is referred to in Judaism as the beauty, the glory of the Jewish people. So it's not right on Tisha B'Av morning. We're wearing not leather shoes. We're sitting on the floor, and you're wearing tefillin. I mean, it's like wearing a crown, but they're sitting on the dirt.
But
It's
we do.
interesting. Correct. We're gonna get there. The Mekubalim seem to say it doesn't make sense. On a Kabbalistic level, tefillin they have to be worn in the morning. How do you wait until the afternoon to wear tefillin? And just think about it on a pshat level. What about this whole thing of you should do many mitzvot as soon as possible, right away when you wake up? You wouldn't think twice on a normal weekday to wear tefillin at 5 p.m.
A.M.
p.m.
or P.M.
You wouldn't think that was not
Oh,
something you would
you-
think to do.
Yeah,
You
but
wouldn't
it's
mean
a special
you wouldn't
day.
think
You wouldn't think
There's only
of
one
I don't
Tisha
think of
B'Av.
doing it. Thank
There's
you.
only one Tisha B'Av, and there's a reason for it.
correct. So he's saying the customs both have on whom to rely, but the custom of the Mekubalim, at least in
One's
Yerushalayim, is to wear tefillin in the morning.
None's
We don't change because of a midrash. We wear tefillin in the morning. Some say if you're gonna do that, wear tefillin at mincha, then at least put them on in the morning. Don't pray in shul. You're right. Don't pray in Tisha B'Av morning at shul with tefillin. It doesn't look right. But put them on at home, so at least you fulfill that opinion. Then by mincha you put it on again.
I saw in Teaneck, New Jersey. Each one is following different rules.
It's okay.
He
So
put
once they have-
tefillin on in the morning.
So we do, because when I called down Peretz, he said, this which Rabbi Yosef Karo says, it's not that he did it, he says it's the custom on the street, it's recording a custom. You want to know how authoritative this chapter of Shulchan Aruch is? I'll read you the next custom, of course. You tell me who does that. Yesh Mishon Oheg, there are those who have the custom, Lishkav Belel Tisha B'Av, to sleep and the night of Tisha B'Av, Muteh al Haaretz, laying on the ground. Umesim Even Tachat Rosho, and he puts a rock underneath his head instead of a pillow.
Sleeping on the ground, a rock on the head.
Sounds like Yaakov.
Got it.
The Ramah says it seems to have been the custom in Europe.
Custom.
And the question was, should pregnant ladies do it? Maybe it's not healthy for them. And this was already a dialogue over here. This is the chapter. This is the only two halachot in the chapter. Maran is recording extra customs that happened on Tisha B'Av that he was aware of. It's not authoritative that you must do it like this. I know some communities that wear in the morning and by mincha tefillin. I believe the Syrians do that. I don't know about Tisha B'Av, but on a regular fast day, that's what they do. Okay, fine. I hear. Either way you go. Our parents told us here that we should do it in the morning. This is the old, seems to be like the old minhag before this midrash became popular. And there's, according to the Mekubalim, it makes them happy. Fine, that's what we do. I don't, either way, I always tell people, if your custom is to wear bar mincha, wear bar mincha.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't think here there's a right or a wrong reason. It's two different approaches to Shabbat. One is you pray like you pray every day. Another one is no, it's different because it's Shabbat. Fine.
Mm.
Interesting.
This brings us to an interesting halakha. The ha'avel, the mourner, a person who, God forbid, lost a relative. B'toch shivat yemei aveluto, within the 7 days of his avelut, of his shiva. Mit'atef betalit gadol, he wears a talit. B'tfilat shacharit, while he prays shacharit. Ve'afilu b'yom harishon la'aveluto, and even on the first day of his mourning, shepatur min tefillin, when he's exempt from wearing tefillin. Tzarich litatef betalit, he still has to wear a talit. The truth is, I want to read to you about this whole thing. Why is an Avel exempt from Tefillin? Why is he obligated in a talit? I just don't want to end off in the laws of mourning. That's not a good place to stop. Well, we have a few minutes. Why don't we do this? Let's go back to page 363. There's a footnote we skipped there on purpose.
What page?
363. Besefer Rokeach, in the book, you see the bottom left column? In the book, the Rokeach, Katav, he writes, Avel, a mourner, chayav betalit, is obligated in talit, uvesuka, and in a sukkah, uvechol hamitzvot, and in all of the mitzvot, ve'afilu b'yom rishon, and even on the first day. Talk to me for a second about an Avel. When does a person become an Avel?
After the person.
After he passes
After the
away.
person's buried. Before the person's buried, they're called an onen. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. An onen is not able to do any mitzvot. Not amen, not brachot, not praying, nothing. In America, the people wait days and days and days to bury people. I don't want to know. The first day of Avelut, which is the day where they bury the person, this is what we're talking about. That's the first day of the Shiva. They're obligated all the mitzvot of the Torah. Uminhag, and there's a custom, she'en mitatfin. That they do not wear a talit. They don't wrap themselves in a talit. V'yesh mitatef b'Shabbat. But some say that on Shabbat, if it happens, they wrap on Shabbat. The Mordechai writes, Katav nohagim, the custom is the avel, that a mourner, kshu holech lebet hakneset, when he goes to the synagogue, betoch shiva, b'Shabbat, during the Shiva, on Shabbat, eino mitatef b'tzitzit, that he does not wear a tzitzit, meaning a talit.
That's interesting.
Gam zeino nira leRabbeinu Meir, but Rabbi Meir does not agree to this. The Avel chayav b'chol mitzvot hamod b'Torah, because an Avel is no different than anybody else. He's obligated in all the mitzvot of the Torah. Uvesever Parnas katav, in the book of Parnas it says, Uveshabbat lebet hakneset shacharit, v'gam mitatef b'tzitzit, that on Shabbat, when he goes to synagogue for shacharit, he wears a talit. V'chol shiva, and the whole shiva levesh talit katan tachat b'gadav, he wears a tzitzit under his clothing during the whole shiva. Kach hig Maharam, this was the custom of the Maharam. Ki mechuyav hu b'chol mitzvot hamorot b'Torah chutz min tefillin b'yom rishon, because he's obligated in all of the mitzvot except for tefillin. Tefillin he's not obligated in as a mourner, but everything else, yes.
But that's after the first day also?
Only the first
Oh,
day.
first day.
The Rama writes B'dachim Moshe Leda, not in the Rama on the Shulchan Aruch, but the Rama in his book before the Shulchan Aruch. The same order, but it's not the same book. Katav Litchot Minhag Miktat Haolam. He comes to argue on the custom of most of the world, some of the world. She'en Havel Mitzav B'Talit B'Yom Rishon. The Havel, the mourner, does not wrap himself in a talit on the first day. Shetautu. The Rama says it's a mistake. The Dafka Tefillin on a Maniach. The Mikay Pe'er. The Rama says the only reason a person doesn't wear tefillin on the first day is because tefillin is called Pe'er, their glory, their splendor. And it's not right. The day that a person buried someone in the ground, they shall run around with tefillin in their head. That's a real halakha, you should know. But a talit, what does a talit have to do with Pe'er? Talit is like kosher. It doesn't stop keeping kosher the day of the Shiva. It doesn't stop saying brachot, it doesn't stop praying. It just tefillin. Tefillin is unique. Talit doesn't go along with tefillin. They're not a package deal. V'sham bi'er, and there he explains the chiluk, the difference. L'inyan zeh ben havel b'yom rishon leveluto neven Tisha B'av. He wants to say there's a difference between the day of Tisha B'av and the first day of the Shiva. They're not the same thing, even they look like the same thing. You know, a person doesn't wear tefillin. They're not the same thing. Why? The shani hatam, because by Tisha B'av it's different. Shenahagu al pi hamidrash. That they follow this midrash, which says that Hashem also took off his talit.
It's interesting that you derive a halacha from
Not a halakha. It's a custom.
custom.
It's a custom. It's important. It's very good. Like you also said, you were surprised. It's not like Maran said, "Oh, look, there's a midrash. Let's learn a halakha from here." It's the people picked up on this.
Yeah.
Not simple people, big people over the years
Flavor.
picked up on Tisha B'av. There must be something about not wearing talit and tefillin on Tisha B'av. But he says that which we don't wear a talit on Tisha B'av, really we would just say take off your tefillin. Why do we take off our talit? Because it says Hashem also took off his talit. Okay, fine, but by the first day of Shiva, we don't have such a midrash, and therefore there's a difference. We only take off tefillin, but not a talit.
There's an avel not to say shat salikol sarki during those days. It's
Interesting question. Interesting question. There's a big argument over there, like on Tisha B'av, if you say Shasali Kol Tzurki, you gave me everything that I need. Because we can't wear shoes, and we don't eat, and we don't drink. Some say you wait until after that evening, and then you, after the fast is over, then you say the blessing. The bottom line is, with all these blessings, does a blind person make the blessing, Hashem, you gave me eyes to see? The answer is yes. Why? Who's he making the blessing for? They say, Mochta Hashem, Bokeach Livrim. Blessed are you, Hashem, who gives sight to the blind. It's not talking about himself. It's a bracha make in general. These brachot are generic blessings. That's why even if a person didn't sleep at night, you still make the morning blessings. Even though for you it's one long day, but the world started over again today. And so even though there is such an opinion, the bottom line is the majority say that these are generic blessings, not subjective to you. They're objective blessings that you make every morning when dawn begins. That's a good question. Okay. וסיים הרמה, the Rama concludes, ולא משתמט לא בגמרא ולא בשום פוסק, דאבל אינו מניח ציצית ביום ראשון, ולכן נראה יש להניח טלית ביום ראשון, והוא פשוט. Says the Rama, the simplest thing in the world. There's no Talmud, there's no posek, there's nobody that says that a mourner does not wear a talit. Everybody says not tefillin, but nobody says not to wear a talit. וכן כתב בדרישה, the Drisha writes, שכן דעת המהרש"ל, the Rebbe Shlomo Luria also writes this. ומכל שכן, how much more so, למנהג רבים מהספרדים שאף בתשעה באב שרים לטפלים בטלית גדול. How much more so to the majority custom of the Sfaradim, which is they also wear a talit. It seems like even some of those who will not wear tefillin will wear a talit. Then how much more so by yeshiva? It's not even a question. If by Tisha B'av they'll wear talit and tefillin, so by morning it's not talit is not a question. But there is an argument about this, and therefore it seems that both Maran and the Rama would say that a mourner on the first day of mourning would wear a talit but not tefillin. Whereas by Tisha B'av, that's where we would say that a person would not wear talit and not tefillin, according to those of a custom, not to wear talit and not to wear tefillin.
So when you say the first day of mourning, it's after the funeral,
Correct.
and so it'd be the next day you wouldn't wear.
There are tricky halachot about this.
Yeah.
Seems to be it's that day, because until the funeral they couldn't wear tefillin. Because they were still on
Yeah,
Onan.
but I mean, okay,
The first day is literally that first day before sunset.
but they're still not. They're in the
24-hour day.
Yeah,
Correct. And you should know this question I remember learning back in the day, and I don't remember the answer to it. In Jerusalem, we bury at midnight. Let's say 1 o'clock in the morning, someone's buried. Then the people go to sleep. Does that mean the next day when he wakes up, which is still the same day, does he not wear tefillin then?
yeah.
There's an
Yeah.
argument about
Yeah.
that. If I recall correctly, people say one should wear tefillin if they want to not make a blessing, because maybe it's a problem. Don't hold me to it. I'm on camera, so I'm not sure. I don't remember this halakha, but we should. There's
Well,
one to
I mean,
look into.
before they become officially a mourner, they're basically in the area where they're not obligated to follow mitzvot at all, right? Stay awake.
Let me read you last thing. Asur le'avel b'yom rishon le'avelo. I'm reading for Rabbi Vadi Yosef in his book Chazon Ovadia. It is forbidden for a mourner on the first day of his mourning, Shehu Yom HaMitah v'Kavua, which is the day of the death and the burial. He's talking about Israel, where a person dies and is buried on the same day. Laniach tefillin, to wear tefillin. Sheho'il v'havel me'olel be'afar karno. The mourner is still in the ashes, he's still in this mourning. And it's not proper to adorn this crown of tefillin on such a sad day for him. And if the passing away was on one day, and burial was on a different day, the poskim argue, if one should put on tefillin on the day of burial, So a person passed away on a Monday, and on Tuesday they bury them. The question is it still as sad of a day that a person wouldn't wear tefillin on Tuesday? Maybe that only applied on Monday. Uledat rov poskim, according to the majority opinion, Eino meniach tefillin. Even on Tuesday he doesn't wear tefillin. אבל כמה פוסקים, but some poskim כתבו, they write שיניח תפילין במקבורה שאינו יום המיטה. That at the day of burial, only if the day of burial and the day of death are together, a person doesn't wear tefillin. But if the day of death and the day of burial are two different days, the day of burial a person wears tefillin after the funeral. Ulhalacha habali malech, and the halacha Rav says if someone comes to ask the rabbi, what should they do? Omorim lo, the rabbi should tell him shaniach tefillin b'tzina. You should wear tefillin privately, below bracha, without a blessing. Shesavek brachot le'akel. Because we're in doubt as to whether that's you should put on tefillin or not make tefillin. So, putting on tefillin or not, is that biblical or rabbinic?
Put on tefillin is biblical.
It's biblical. Therefore, we're in doubt as to whether or not we should
Say
fulfill a
blessing.
biblical commandment. So we err on the side of caution and we're strict. What does it mean to be strict? To put on tefillin.
Yeah,
Making the blessing of the tefillin
yeah, it's
is rabbinic, right? So what do we say about tefillin? A rabbinic doubt, we are
Yeah,
lenient, and therefore we don't make the blessing. So to do the biblical part, do, but the rabbinic part, don't do. Shezavek brachot akel. Uv'yom hashani, and on the second day of his mourning, yaniach tefillin achar hanetzach hama. He waits until after sunrise, and he puts on tefillin like on any other day. Now, everybody has pages and pages of notes. I'll tell you. Wow. Okay, I'll tell you how many pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 pages of sources here that are arguing about this stuff.
Wow.
Pages. And Yishmael Ravadi, it's not like he's elaborating and he's just quoting this book and this book and this book. No, it's a lot of sources that he's putting together here. That is the halakha.
Different opinion, 15 different opinion.
15 pages of sources that discuss this
What a
matter.
mind.
So let's maybe end off on a good note. I want to end off with something good. B'ezrat Hashem.
How did you get in, since I missed the beginning, how did you get into this part of this? Because I thought we were talking about tzitzit and...
Because talking about
Are you following in order of what?
Shulchan Aruch.
yeah.
I'll tell you how we got there.
What?
Because the next.
Because we're talking that the custom is to wear talit during shacharit.
Yeah,
So now he's quoting on which days people wouldn't wear a talit during shacharit. One of those days would be Tisha B'Av. If we're talking about Tisha B'Av, he wants to mention those mourners who don't wear talit on the first day. It's a mistake. They should not be wearing tefillin,
So
but
it's just-
talit does. That's how we got there.
okay.
That's a good point, how we got there. Baruch Hashem, I think the best thing we could say is we pray always a month before Tisha B'Av, ask our parents, teach us the laws of Tisha B'Av. He says, no, I'm not teaching you. Why not? He says, I don't believe we're going to have Tisha B'Av this year. The redemption should come. Then a week before Tisha B'Av, he says, okay, I have no choice. I have to teach you the laws of Tisha B'Av, but it's on condition that what I'm saying is only if the Beit HaMikdash is not rebuilt, these laws should come into effect. All of these things we talk about mourning and this, we're not talking about ourselves. It should not, nobody here should ever have to mourn. Nobody anywhere should have to mourn. We're talking here only about, it's a theoretical dilemma we're discussing, but we should only hear good news from each other and from our families and from everyone around us.
Amen.